Well, good morning and welcome to my YouTube channel. So this morning I thought I would take a wee wander down by the local river. We've just woke up to a really hard frost, so I thought I'd take advantage and see, before the sun comes fully up, what areas of interest, maybe some wildlife if we're lucky. I'm hearing a lot of ducks, I see a couple of kites flying above me. So let's wander along the river and let's see what compositions we can try and get this morning. So I've come across this old ford, and I suppose the other reason I'm out this morning is this is completely ad hoc. I don't have a plan. My daughter had a book during Christmas and New Year there, and there was a wee phrase in the book that said, "Don't wait to be motivated to get out." Get out and find your motivation. So this morning I'm out trying to find my motivation. So first of all, what I'm going to try and do is set up a composition here. There's an old ford going into the river, and I'll just level up my camera, turn it round. It's a wee bit dark, I've still got a wee bit pinky glow. I've set my camera at a 13th of a second, f16, ISO 100. I've focused into the centre of the frame at those trees. I'll take my shot, because I still want to get some kind of colour in the sky, even though the sun's not fully up. We're starting to get colour round about us. So I'm just going to take 3 exposures, an underexposed, a normal exposure and an overexposed shot, just so that I can brighten up the foreground, and then I can merge the underexposed shot, which will give me the darker sky, with a brighter ground so that we can highlight the frost. So the other composition I found here is there's some really tall weeds, and for the life of me I can't remember what they're called. But what I'll do is I'll find out what they are and I'll put the name on the screen. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to focus in on these tall weeds. I'll take my shot, I'll leave my settings as they are because I'm still facing the same direction. So it's quite cold, so the light is quite bluey just now until the sun comes up, and then it'll warm up and go to a kind of warmy yellowy colour. But I've kept my colour temperature at auto white balance. So I'm just going to double check I've got the 3 exposures that I need. Yep, I've got them. So what I'll do now is I'll keep wandering. I've been here before, but it was about 6 or 7 years ago. And I'll just keep following the river just to see if there's anything of interest. I'm really looking for frost, I'm looking for bits of ice, just before the sun comes up, and then, because then it'll all melt quite quickly. But yeah, we'll keep going, let's see if we can find anything of interest. So I'm just walking along the edge of the river, and effectively what I'm doing is I'm just looking for tracks and paths, and I'm just going to follow them down. The sun's now come up, so you'll see that wee path behind me. I'll just put my thumb up so you can see the path. So let's follow the path and let's see what we can find down here. Hopefully there's something of interest. So what I'm seeing, I mean, it's not the most picturesque in the morning, but what I'm starting to see is the grass is getting lit up and the frost really glowing. So what I'll do is I'll walk further round the bend in the river and we'll see what more we can find. Alright, so while I was taking shots, or trying to get shots of the kites, which I don't know if they'll work because they're probably too far away, what I've done is I've found the sun's come up and I've got a really nice light on those weeds, which hopefully we've already identified. So just so you know, I'm just changing my setup because I had it set up for video there because I was trying to capture the movement of the kites, but hopefully it works. Let's see. That's why we came out. So those weeds again that we couldn't name earlier, which hopefully we now know, they've been lit up by the sun. We've got a nice white frost at the base, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in because it's quite a nice composition. I'll put them in the third, on the right third of the image. So they're on the top right hand corner, the cluster at the top. I'm just going to double check my focus. So they're out of focus, so let me just put them in focus. I've got a 2-second timer, hit the shot, and there we are. That's a nice image. I'm just going to put the histogram on just a second. So it's leaning a wee bit to the left, so it's a bit dark, but that's okay, just because the sun's there. Now, the other thing, when I was taking some footage earlier, because the sun's coming up, the sun's giving us quite a nice diffused glow in this direction. So there's a couple of plants here. So what I was going to do was focus on some of the plants that are backlit by the sun, just to see how that works out, and try and get some kind of glow from the sun in the background. Actually, that's actually quite nice. Oh, right, so having done this, I've now got multiple focal points. So let's see, there's a bit of a breeze starting, so that might be a wee problem. So I might need to increase the shutter speed a bit. Now the sun's going in my eyes. Oh no, that's actually really nice. Choose a different focal point. There we go, I'll take the shot. And I've got some geese for company. Well, that's quite a nice image. So what I might do is just move round a bit, and let's find a new composition over this side, and then what I'll do is, rather than shoot straight into the sun, I'll try and keep a little bit right, and then that way we won't get any blemishes in there. Right, so there's a lot of weed here. It's like some cotton at the top of it. So what I'm doing is I'm focusing in on that. I've got a ISO 125, f11, I've got a 50th of a second. What I might do is just increase my ISO to 200, because it was a wee bit dark. Yeah, that's nice. To be fair, I think I prefer the darker version. So if I kind of go in between, so if I do ISO 160, yeah, that's nice. And I'm getting just enough of the light on the leaves. So what I want to do, I've just spotted another composition where those plants or weeds I took earlier are actually quite nice. So if I could get lower and closer, again, because of the way they're lit, that could be quite a nice image. So I'm going to try that. I focused in on those two, I keep calling them weeds just now. Sorry, I'm being distracted because the kites are going all over the place behind me. So I've got the real white hard frost in front of it. It actually looks like snow in my image. I've set 150th of a second, f11, ISO 200, and that could be a nice image. I'm just taking these shots of the kites. They're absolutely amazing. I hope this lens can do it justice. Wow, they're playing with each other, they're swooping down. It looks like they're going down into the long grass for prey. I've got one right beside me, so hopefully It's close enough for me to get some decent shots. Because I've set my camera to high speed continuous, so I'll have hundreds of shots. I just hope at least one or two of them turn out and I can share these images with you, the kites. I knew they were around. I didn't quite expect to get them this quick and see so many this morning. Right, hopefully I've got enough shots of the kites. Let's pack up and start wandering again round the river and see what we can find. Walking for ages, I'm absolutely puffed, and as you'll see, there's a tree line. It's over there actually. There's a tree line over there. I walked over there to see if I could see anything, but there's actually nothing really of any interest. The river just snakes its way around, and there isn't that much. There's not really a lot of interest along the banks of the river. It's pretty boring, to be honest. However, I've lived in the country for a number of years now, and I'll tell you, there's nothing prepares you for being startled by a startled pheasant. Geez, they make a racket, and crikey, they get your heart going. So I walked past this wee duck pond earlier. It's a disused duck pond. So what I thought I might do is I might have a wee scout about it. It's got some trees round about it, so I'll see if there's any compositions around the trees, and maybe the way that the sun, because the sun's come up quite a bit now. I'm also out of the shelter of the wind because we've also been forecast gale force winds later today, so there's quite a bit of wind building up the higher up I stand. So let's crack on and I'll catch up with you once we find a suitable location. Well, I've actually come into this wee cluster of trees, and I don't know if you can hear, but the wind's starting to pick up, so I'm going to try and shoot with quite a fast shutter speed, which might mean I'll have to lower my f-stop or increase my ISO, but let's see how we get on. What I've noticed here is, I did notice in the little pond here there's a tree growing out of the pond, and there's quite a nice reflection of it. But as I'm setting up my camera, the branches of that fir tree look quite nice. So I'm going to see if I can get a shot of the light hitting the fir tree, and then I'll see if I can get a composition with this lens, just in case this lens is too long, with the tree coming out of the pond. What I'll do is I'll zoom in, just to try and get focused in on it, because there's a little bit of light on that tree there. I'm just going to take a test shot. Right, that's quite nice, but it's a bit busy at the top. So what I might do is just lower, so I've got more of the reflection in the composition. So the other thing I'm doing, because this is a portrait shot, I'm keeping that tree, when I stand here, the tree's leaning up to the top left hand side. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up my composition so that tree, I'm just going to increase the ISO to 1000, that tree is then leaning from the bottom left of my screen out of the screen. So from a compositional point of view, I've got the tree on the right hand side of my image pointing up left, and then the reflection at the bottom of the tree is going down left, and it actually looks quite nice. And I've upped that ISO to 1000, and it's actually quite a nice composition. So the other thing I'm seeing now is there's quite a lot of nice lichen on some of these branches, so I might take some shots of the lichen. But equally, as I look out to the pond, there's also ice formed by the clusters of grass. Okay, so I'm just checking this in case it's a bit swampy. But I've set my camera up to try and get a photograph of the cluster, the reeds, where it's got the frost topped on the top. And what I've done is I've had to increase my ISO to 400. I've got a f11 and a 30th of a second. So I'm going to turn it over to portrait mode just to see what difference that makes. And if I can find a composition, because whilst these grasses look good, it's not always fantastic from a compositional point of view, because sometimes what you see with your eye doesn't always transpose to what you get in the camera, unfortunately. So what I'll do is I'll go down, that's quite nice as a panoramic. What I'm trying to do is get the tops of the frost effect from the tops of the cluster of the grasses. Right, perfect. Right, so before I sink away, I'll turn my camera around, and there's a nice wee composition here with the trees. That's nice. Right, so I've got what looks like a nice wee composition here. I'm just going to zoom into the centre of the image, make sure it's focused. I'll take one shot. I'm actually quite taken with the reflections, so what I'll do is a quick 3-shot exposure compensation, because there's some of the reflections in the trees in this direction look quite nice. So I've come to the edge of the pond. I just being careful with my feet here. So I'll just turn on live view. So I've widened my composition. I'm trying to get as much of this foreground in because I quite like the shapes of the ice. I'll take my shot. I've got a 30th of a second f11 and ISO 400. I'm just going to do a quick exposure compensation. I've got 3 images that I'll take there, and I really just want the sky. I should have brought my filters, but I was trying to be light, and to be honest I actually didn't expect it to be that nice as it is this morning. So I'm just double checking I've got my darkish sky, so that's cool. Right, so what I can do now is zoom in and look for different compositions and see if there's anything out there. It might be quite nice. There's a bunch of trees in the distance over there, so if I focus in on them, I will have to, there's a nice bunch of reeds in front of them, so I will again have to do a quick exposure compensation. Well, maybe what I'll do is lower the ISO and just see what difference that makes. I've dropped to ISO 160, that's actually quite nice. Yeah, I'll work my way that way. We'll see if we've got any images. If not, then we'll just head back and then we'll see if there's anything else on the way. So that's us finished here. Well, it always pays to keep walking and wandering. So I've just walked round to the tip of the pond. Actually quite a nice wee composition here in front of me. So I'm trying to make sure my shadow is not being cast into the pond. I'll just reduce my ISO to 100, increase my shutter speed to a 60th of a second. I'm just going to make sure that my focal point is in the centre of the pond. I've got f11, it's level, and that's a nice image. I thought a panoramic might have been quite nice here, but I'll give it a bash. Let's try it and see what happens. So I've got my focal point from the previous image at the same settings. I've put my hand in front so that I know when I've started the panoramic. And then what I'll do is, rather than waste your time, I'll show you that image now. Okay, so I think we'll end the video here. Just heard the wee noise in the pond. I'll lift you up so you can see it. The only problem with hearing noises, you'd never get away from a location because you always stop. So I'll call it a day here. A very impromptu morning. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I got out the house, which was great. Fresh air, nice walk. So hopefully we can make a video out of this. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, that'll let you know the next time I post a video. So thank you for watching, and here's to the next video.